Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today to learn how to improve your security posture with Security Command Center. I'm Catherine Shee. I'm a Senior Product Manager in Cloud Security.
And I'm Tim Peacock, a Product Manager in Cloud Security.
So you may have heard about Security Command Center. There's been a version for a while, but we have a new enhanced version, and we've done a lot of extra work as the new version comes to GA this year. So we're going to talk about everything we've brought together and all of the use cases that you can now address as a security professional with Security Command Center. As a high-level overview, before we dive in, there's 4 main areas where it can help. If you've worked in security ops, you'll have recognized there are some things you absolutely need in the cloud. We think there's 4 big ones. The first is understanding the cloud resources and policies that you have to manage. You really need a single security-centric view in order to make this a tractable problem area. The second thing is understanding what you've done with regards to setup. So how are your resources and policies configured? Is it as expected and correct? Or are there places where you have misconfigurations that may cause you trouble? The third issue is that since you have production workloads, you need to protect them against all sorts of external threats with highly reliable real-time information. And then finally, on an ongoing basis, you need to be able to demonstrate that you're maintaining compliance or transparency and accountability with regards to your management, your auditors, and even yourself. So those are the 4 big pillars, and this is what we're focused on addressing with Security Command Center. So that said, let's look at the new features that it brings. So Security Command Center gives you real-time integrations and monitoring for an ever-expanding set of GCP resources. It helps you discover vulnerabilities. From our point of view, this is a combination of misconfigurations on your cloud resources and vulnerabilities associated with any web applications you may be running in the cloud, especially OWASP Top 10 and adjacent spaces. Next, Command Center helps detect external threats that are targeted at your environment, such as malicious activities targeting GCP resources or unauthorized behavior and access patterns from within your own organization. And then finally, to maintain compliance, you want to address industry benchmarks and standards. Security Command Center helps you here with ongoing reports that tie key technical controls to the underlying vulnerabilities and misconfigs on which it reports. So with those high-level details, let's look at what each one has in terms of nuts and bolts. First, in order to get visibility, Command Center gives you a full inventory of all of our supported assets with virtually real-time tracking. It also lets you see the security findings associated with each one of these tracked assets. For discovering vulnerabilities and misconfigurations, Command Center gives you specific findings based on all of our best practices, as well as some of the OWASP Top 10. For threat detection, we have used the same best-in-class technology that Google uses to protect Google.com. This includes threat intelligence for detecting malicious activity at the account and network level, as well as our newest beta service, Container Threat Detection, which relies on deep platform integrations to help detect malicious activity from within your GKE containers. And then for compliance, there are out-of-the-box reports on technical controls associated with benchmarks such as the CIS 1.0 GCP Foundations, NIST 853, PCI DSS, ISO 27001. You can see a list of all of our different mapped controls in the vulnerabilities view of the tooling. You can also see the controls relative to each specific benchmark, which allows you to prioritize and decide which things to fix first. Let's look at how we bring this all together in Security Command Center. We have different services in Security Command Center that help you get oversight of your security across Google Cloud. It continuously monitors your Google Cloud environment to discover assets, identify misconfigurations and web app vulnerabilities, and detect threats in near real time. On the threat detection side of things, we use Google's own internal threat intelligence, as well as latest novel threat detection capabilities to provide a rich view of potential attacks on your GCP surface. The continuous monitoring provides you with an asset view of your real-time resources and policies, changes to this inventory, and the findings associated with each asset. You get security findings that span misconfigurations, vulnerabilities, and threats to your GCP environment, as well as a prioritized view of security findings that help you address issues. Finally, it gives you a view from a compliance lens. So we associate all tracked misconfigurations and vulnerabilities with common industry standards and provide compliance reporting segmented by those standards that you can track how your environment compares with the technical portions of industry recommended benchmarks. Finally, SCC provides your recommendations and remediation steps for you to take action on security findings and compliance violations. You can also send these findings to the SOAR or SIM of your choice for you to remediate and respond to them. With all that in mind, Security Command Center is a one-stop destination for all of your security operations across GCP. On that note, Security Command Center integrates with a number of various products to help give you this single pane of glass. So in addition to security posture for your GCP environment, you can use it for all your security findings. You may be using other security products and have findings from those sources. These can be aggregated into SCC. So we integrate with Google products such as Cloud DLP, Cloud Armor, and a constantly evolving list. We also integrate with 20 plus leading third-party security products, including a sample on this slide. You can find more information on documentation if you're curious. In summary, these are all the top use cases of Security Command Center that you can fit to your organization's needs. Combined, they will help you improve your security posture on Google Cloud. And with that, let's transition to a quick product demo. We'll walk you through some of these use cases.
Hey, thanks so much, Catherine. So I'm excited to walk everybody here through a quick demo of a couple of the capabilities of Security Command Center. I'm going to be showing you the capabilities of Security Health Analytics alongside Event Threat Detection. Security Health Analytics, or SHA for short, is a platform built into SCC that enables security teams to have very close to real-time visibility into misconfigurations and vulnerabilities in your underlying Google Cloud setup. These vulnerabilities and misconfigurations are documented against leading industry benchmarks, including CIS 1.0, as well as PCI and some NIST standards. What I'm going to demonstrate today is our capability to detect a misconfigured firewall in very close to real time. So here we are on the homepage of Security Command Center, and you're able to see that there are a number of nicely sliced ways of viewing the different vulnerabilities and threats in Security Command Center. So what we're going to do now is create a vulnerability for our system to detect. One of the things that's great about cloud is the incredible networking capabilities that Google Cloud makes available. But one of the things that's risky about cloud is that users often misconfigure their firewalls and their networking rules in order to get the job done. So what I've done here is I've created what I'm calling my foolish rule, which is a rule that allows ingress traffic from all IP addresses on all protocols and ports. So we're going to go ahead and create this rule now. This rule has been created, and you can see it in the list here. I'm going to go over to the Findings tab for Security Health Analytics. And now that I've created the rule, I'm going to change our time window to vulnerabilities that we detected in the last hour. So having created that new firewall rule, I'm going to check Security Health Analytics and see what findings we've generated just in the past hour now that we've created that rule. And although this is a recorded session, for those of you following along at home, you can check the timestamps here. We created this just seconds ago. And so what you can see is that we've actually identified that not only are there open ports all over the place, we're able to give you detailed descriptions about each one. So I'm going to pick into one of these findings, an open SSH port vulnerability, and show you not only that we declare this as having high severity, but that we expose what ports are open, and we give you remediation instructions on how to deal with this. We're really proud of the context and remediation recommendations that we expose here because we believe it's an important way to help security teams, including SOC operators and analysts who may not be extensively familiar with Google Cloud, how to deal with the issues as they come up. Rather than give users generic warning, not only do we do that, we also give them the context that they need to understand why this vulnerability finding matters and what to do about it. So if we were to go to the firewall rules page, we could remove that firewall. Here I am back on the firewall page, and I can click onto this rule, and I can delete this rule. Now that I've deleted the rule and cleaned up the issue, I'm going to go back to Security Command Center, hit refresh, and see that those findings are now gone. So here we are back in Security Command Center, And I'm going to refresh the page and show that these findings, now that we've remediated them, have been hidden from view so that your analyst is focused on what matters most, not what's already been fixed. As you can see in the last hour, those findings about open ports went away, and all that remains is a different, not relevant to this demo finding. Now, let's imagine for a moment that we didn't actually respond to that finding in close to real time. Instead, an adversary was able to connect to one of our instances, in this case, our Bastion host, which has an external IP configured, and they were able to execute some malware. In our case, we're going to simulate the execution of malware by curling one of the domains which we have registered to let security teams test the efficacy of event threat detection. Threat detection is a streaming real-time log analytics system built into Security Command Center, which consumes your Google Cloud audit logs, network logs, and syslog in order to detect the most common and damaging threats that we see targeting our cloud customers. Now, in this case, we've curled a test domain, but what it's done in the background is generated a DNS log for the query of etd_malwaretrigger.goog. Again, this isn't an actual malware C2 server. It's a test domain that we registered and make available in our documentation so that you can end-to-end confirm that your event threat detection system is working correctly. I'm going to tab over to Security Command Center once again, and we're going to pick into the details of a malware bad domain finding. And you can see it here, and you can dig into the source properties and see all of the interesting information that we make available for an analyst when understanding an event threat detection finding. We make available the source log, the project, when it occurred, the detection priority, as well as some context about the affected resource and the DNS record that generated the finding. So what you've seen today is you've seen an end-to-end demonstration of security health analytics detecting vulnerable firewall configurations, as well as event threat detection, detecting in near real time malware activity as it beaconed out to a demonstration C2 domain. With that, I'm going to hand things back to Catherine to wrap us up.
Great. Thank you so much for walking us through that, Tim. For anyone who's curious to get started with Security Command Center, you can log into the Google Cloud Console and start it today. You can also learn more from our documentation. This is the URL, so check it out. And with that, thank you very much for joining us and your time. Cheers.